Teexpert Resin asked me if I would like to give their resin a try, so they sent me one of their starter kits. And we're gonna go with the ocean. Let's do it. I was asked to do a review on Teexpert Resin. They sent me this package, and it comes with two little medicine-sized measuring cups, a couple of spouts that you can put onto the bottles. Those are pipettes. And these are the part A and part B. It's a 1-to-1 ratio resin, and it's very crystal clear. This is a 32-ounce kit. It has some stir sticks are included in the kit. They've got their directions. These are finger cots, so little coverings for your finger, and a couple of plastic disposable gloves. But, you know, I prefer using the nitrile because they're going to last a little bit longer and they have a little bit better protection layer to them. The directions that come with it, this is obviously in another language, but on the other side we have it in English, and they're very extensive, so that's great. Now, like I said before, this resin is a 1-to-1 ratio, so I'm going to fill my cup as I have already marked on the sides. It's measured by volume, so equal volume, and this is a total of, I believe I did 10 ounces on this one. So we're just going to mix it up. I'm stirring it for about 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm scraping the sides, mixing it very thoroughly. It's a thin viscosity, so easy to mix and very clear. I'm now going to color the resin. I'm using a Pearl-X Carbon Black. It's a dry pigment. In the directions, they do not recommend using any water-based pigments, so acrylic paint would definitely not work in this. So I'm going with the dry pigments, and like I said, Pearl-X, it's a mica powder, and it blended in there very nicely. I'm just coating the sides. We're going beach with this one. I always like to test on beach look. I waited about 2 hours to allow the resin to start to set up and get tacky. And now I'm sprinkling on some coarse black sand that I got at Michael's. And I'm just covering the entire surface. I am working on a canvas, but I did support that canvas with a piece of Luan. I'll drop a link here for you in the top right-hand corner if you're interested in seeing how I support a canvas when I'm working with something that can be quite heavy on there. A lot of times the weight will make the canvas sag towards the center, so if you support it, it works well. Now I'm just using my gloved hands to sprinkle that resin, or I should say that coarse sand, into my hands, and that's going to let me get that to attach to the side so that I have that sandy beach, a black sandy beach, going over the sides of my canvas. So that's looking pretty good and working well, and we'll come back and check it tomorrow. Okay, it has been 12 hours. Maybe more. Anyway, I came down this morning and I like to check to see if things are cured. Again, this is my first time using this resin, so you know, you got to learn as you go. And you can see that there's quite a bit of sand here on the beach. Looks good though, and you know, it's hard to tell, but there's a lot of loose on the top, and that's okay. I expected that, but I wanted to make sure I had good coverage. I didn't want to see shiny resin coming through in there. So I am going to be cleaning this off and removing any of the loose particles. I got quite a pile down here, but I want to, you know, get this cleaned up. So let me get that done here. All right, and now I'm going to do a test. So if you guys are doing a lot of resin, I recommend having something that you can do your tests on. So you can see this is an old canvas. It's got all kinds of things happening on it, but it doesn't matter. It's for testing. So I'm pouring out some of the Teexpert resin that I've batched up. Again, it's a 1-to-1 by volume. And in the directions, it states to not use any water-based pigments to color your resin. It recommends using dry pigments, but I'm doing a beach piece. So the only way I know to get good wave lacing is by using a liquid epoxy resin pigment. And it is a resin-based pigment, so it's not a water-based pigment, and that should work well. And so I torched it a little bit, and then I'm coming in with my nozzle tip on my heat gun, and I'm blowing the white into the clear, and that's how I work on getting my lacing. So you can see, it's not really level, so there's a little bit of drifting going on. Again, it's just a test panel that I'm working on. But I blow it out, and I don't really get very good lacing. So I come back in with my torch again, and it's starting to flame up. And I did get some lacing, but it also starts to go brown on me. So that means that the resin is scorching. And you can see it flames up again there. Now, flaming up means it's not tolerant to high heat. So, this resin is not going to be good for using to get any kind of lacing. So I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to approach my beach piece with this resin, but you can see from the results that it's not going to work well to get any good wave lacing. So, you can get a few pockets and holes in there, but they drift apart quickly because it's so thin. So let's figure this out. So I'm getting ready to pour my water on my beach piece, and the Teexpert epoxy resin states in its directions that you need to use dry pigments. And so I'm doing some testing. And, with the kit, they give you a very extensive explanation about their product. I don't think I've ever had this much information supplied. And so anyway, it states in those directions that you should use dry pigments. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, right there. They're saying coloring to use a dry filler. Don't use water-based dyes. Okay, so dyes, yeah. I don't know that I'm using dyes. I like to use my pigments that are especially made for resin, and I don't think they're dyes. But I happen to have these from Color Art. These are powder pigments. They're tints. And I wanted to make a turquoise color. I didn't have a turquoise color. This is Bahama Mama, but as you can see, it's very blue. It's a pretty blue. And then I also have the Tumeric. So then I also have the Tumeric, right? And of course, Tumeric, it's a golden yellow. So guess what? Blue and yellow makes for green, right? And there, you can see that I was able to get a real pretty turquoise colored mixture. Now, normally with the RezinArte pigments, these tints, I dissolve them in alcohol because they're dry. So let's see if I can do this one-handed maybe. So you can see it's dry pigment. And it's very, it's a lovely pigment, but in the past when I've used this, you can see there's little tiny, see those little balls in there? So those are the buggers. And that's why if you put it into alcohol, you can dissolve those down. And, it takes a little bit of time and you have to use your spoon and, really work at it and be thorough about it, but you can break them all down. And since in this resin, it states to not use any liquid, well, it says water-based. Now, alcohol inks are, most alcohol inks, they're going to be dye-based. And so I don't want to use something that's made from a dye because it's not light fast. So I decided that I was going to try using these dry tints from Color Art. And what I did was I put just the resin component into this little cup. It's filled up more now, but when I started out, I only had a tiny little bit of resin down here, and I put my color in, and I took my time and letting it sit in the moisture, allowing it to break down over time in the resin. And, if I saw a clump, I would break it up with my popsicle stick. But at this point, I've been, playing around with it for, gosh, at least an hour. And so, what you can do is you can let it, the moisture will eventually help break down. But, again, just something that you can do. And I got myself a real pretty turquoise tint. So now all I have to do is measure out the same amount of the hardener component, and I can mix the two, and I will have a turquoise, transparent turquoise, because mica powders, they're all going to be opaque. And again, it's a water thing, so I want to have some transparency. So this one here is going to give me some transparency. Okay, I'm getting ready to batch up my resin. This is, which one is this? This is the hardener in the cup here. And yeah, there's one of my yogurt things. You guys know that about me. Anyway, I had thought I was going to pour a big thing first, and then I was like, oh no, I want to do the sand, so I need less resin. So that's when I did that. And so I had already put the hardener in this cup, and then I covered it. It's been covered for 2 days, sitting like that. And I just went to get ready to batch this up, and I thought this was interesting. Let's see if I can get a good view of this for you. I was ready to pour the resin component in, part A, and I saw this stuff in here. I don't know if you guys can really see it, but it's got a film on it. I've never seen that happen before. And trust me, I have, I've poured my resin and let it sit. It actually has like a crunch. So it got like some exposure to air, I guess, sitting in my cup. So let's stir it. And my hope is it'll just combine right back in there. But like I said, I've never seen that before. And yeah, it did. It combined right back in there. And so I'm going to go ahead and add my my resin component in there. I'm going to mix that up. I got to get my mask on. So let's get going. All right, we're doing 14 ounces of the Teexpert. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's a 1-to-1 ratio by volume. So I had already marked my cup where I had equal measurements by volume, and now I'm splitting that up and putting them into smaller cups so that I can mix the colors. I'm using black diamonds. This is their silver pearl. And I'm using 3 colors from Color Art. It's from their RezinArte line. And these are luster pigments. I'm using Blue Moon, Surf's Up, and Aquamarine. And again, these are dry pigments. They are really nice to work with. You know, easy to store because they're dry pigments. You don't have to worry about it. They're in airtight containers. And I'm also using those RezinArte, the tints that I batched up using the 2 colors, the blue and I should say the Bahama Mama color and the Tumeric, and that gave me my transparent turquoise green that I wanted to use. All right, so let's start laying down some color. This is Blue Moon, and it is beautiful, one of my favorite colors from the line. I decided to speed up the footage here because I'm just laying down the ribbons of color and I'm making sure that my sides are evenly coated. Using the popsicle stick just to like paint that across the sides. So I'm putting out ribbons of the color, allowing their colors to blend in together. I had the dark blue up at the top and then moving into the medium blue, the Surf's Up, and following with the aquamarine right at the beach, the sand line there. So I just keep putting those ribbons down, moving the colors in towards one another, and then I'm not going to use a torch at all. I'm only going to use my heat gun. And that's because of my concerns of scorching the resin. It did not hold up well to the heat from a torch. So now I'm starting to work in my pearl white from Black Diamonds to get some lacing. I'm hoping that, you know, without using the torch, I'll still get some lacing out of it. So I'm using the heat gun to blow that out and in. It works really nicely across the sandy beach area, and that's because it's a coarse sand, so it kind of breaks it up a little bit and creates a little bit of a lacing effect in there, but not so much out in the water. The lacing, it's because it's a mica, it's really not giving me any kind of good lacing effects, but it's really pretty. I mean, the colors are really just lovely from RezinArte here. So I just work that around, make sure I got everything covered up, and we'll put it to bed for the night and come back and look at it tomorrow. Okay, the cover is off, and the colors, Color Art's RezinArte luster pigments are looking fantastic. You got some nice cell action in there, which is beautiful. Now remember, I did not use a torch at all. And I did that on purpose. I did not want to have any scorching in here. And after doing my test for the lacing, I knew that, you know, torch would be too much. So this all came up just from the heat gun. All right, so the heat gun, I use a Wagner. It has multiple settings, and I had it on medium and had that small nozzle tip on there. And yeah, it came out darn good. Some pretty stuff. Let's come around here. By the way, if you guys, you know, if you're like me, you love your drips just as much as you love your piece. Here's a peek at my underside. No drips because I came back after 2 hours and it was soft, so I just scraped all those off. I got my tape back there, so that's going to be an easy cleanup. Here's my nice sandy beach. Looks good. Okay, I turned the painting around so you guys can see it without reflections going crazy on there. So I've got some nice effects. I like the overall look of it. I was trying to get lacing out here. I didn't get any. I was trying to get lacing in here at the shoreline, and I got a little bit. That's the beginnings of lacing. But because this is a soft resin, it didn't hold it. Now I got nice effects, but that's because of the white pushing through the sand and moving when I was using the heat gun to blow it out and go through. So that's how I got that look. You know, it's got this transition line here from my shore. That's pretty intense. I had used transparents out here because I wanted to be able to see the black sand down through there. So that's how it ended up. And this still needs another 24 hours to cure. And we'll give it that. And then hopefully I'll have nice weather tomorrow and take it outside to get some pictures for you. Well, I'm lucky enough to have a beautiful sunny day. It's cold out here, but it's nice and sunny, and that makes for good filming and gives you a really good look of how this resin worked. Honestly, you know, trying to do it for a beach piece and trying to get some lacing out of it, that did not work. I will say that there was no smell to the resin, so that was good. I did wear my respirator for protection, and Color Art Pigments did really a good job getting some effects. So overall, I'll give it a thumbs up, and I'll try it for other things. All the products that I used today will be listed in the description box. So check there. If there's any coupons I can offer you, I'll put them in there, but all the products will be listed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Moonkusser Art.